Hey Omnibus Collectors and X-Fans, it's Riley and I'm back with another Omnibus of the Week, and this video is doubling as the next episode of my X-Men Readathon. I decided that I would wait until I finished the entirety of the Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 1 before I made another X-Men video, so there is a lot to talk about. But let's just do things the way I normally do with an Omnibus of the Week video. Let's take a look at the dust jacket I have up here. So the cover of this is going to be the Giant Size X-Men #1. This is the legendary issue where Len Wein wrote and assembled the new team of X-Men before Chris Claremont started writing as the ongoing writer. So we see that new team here. The old team is in the back, and then we see Storm, Wolverine, Colossus, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, and Thunderbird are on there. It doesn't have Banshee on there though. So we get that whole team going on right here. Spine, Uncanny X-Men, Claremont, Cockrum, and Byrne, Volume 1. And then a little cover gallery going on down here on the back. Entertaining far beyond its contemporaries is the quote at the top, and this collects, it says Giant Size #1, X-Men 94 through 131, and annual #3. The series, of course, was retitled as the Uncanny X-Men with issue, I think it was 114. So it's been the X-Men since then, and then it gets retitled. The inside cover, all new, all different, and then the creators. So we get Claremont and Cockrum, John Byrne, and Len Wein all listed on here. So that's the dust jacket. Then here's the book itself. This is the it's a pretty nice sized book. This is the second printing though, so it does have the new style of cover rather than that faux leather look that the old ones had. So it's got the red Marvel Omnibus and then Uncanny X-Men, all the credits that the dust jacket had. Cover is plain with the white Uncanny X-Men Omnibus on there, and then the back has nothing. First page is an image of Wolverine on there. We get some credits going on right here. The collected edition editors are Mark Beasley and Corey Settlemeyer. And then some more credits on book design and all kinds of stuff like that. And then an image from one of the covers with the old X-Men versus the new X-Men. And then after that, we get some credits for the creators on each of the issues. So we know like Claremont's going to be the creator, or the writer for most of these. And then we get pencils from Cockrum for the first chunk, and then John Byrne does the pencil for the rest of it. And then a bunch of different letterers and inkers and colorists and editors and all that good stuff going on in there. And then we get table of contents. So we get the page number for every issue, the title of the issue and all that good stuff, the year that it was published and the month it was published. We get that for every issue that's in the book, which is really nice. There is a foreword in here by Chris Claremont, so him talking about writing on the X-Men. As y'all probably already know, Chris Claremont was had the longest tenure on the X-Men of any writer. He wrote the series for, I believe it was 17 years solid, and that's just his initial run, and that's just me talking about Uncanny X-Men. He also wrote New Mutants and a bunch of different spin-off books. He started the Wolverine solo book, stuff like that. So Claremont is without a doubt legendary, and not just for his run on the Uncanny X-Men. And then we get into the back matter after the last issue. Just want to show off what's back here. There's a couple pages here with artwork from Dave Cockrum showing off the original concepts for Storm and Thunderbird's costumes, as well as a couple of characters called Black Cat and Vampire who never made it into the final edition of the actual book for Giant Size X-Men. We get more sketches of different costumes. There's some for the Phoenix, or Jean Grey. Some more sketch of, we get Nightcrawler and Colossus on this page. There's a John Byrne image of the Beast from Foom, and then on the other side we get a Dave Cockrum drawing of the entire team of the new X-Men plus some of the older ones. There's some more artwork by Cockrum in here. There's some cover sketches, some more interior artwork, even more art. And then we get into a few pages that show off a bunch of the covers of Classic X-Men, which is a reprint magazine reprinting the issues that are found in this book with new cover art from various artists like Art Adams and Mike Mignola, among others. And then a quick look at the binding itself, just so y'all can see it is just as good as any other Marvel binding is. Always get that nice gap in there so you know this book will lay flat and you won't have any trouble reading it from page 1 to the very final page. As for the content, of course, if y'all have been following me on my videos, on my website, y'all know that I am a huge X-Men fan. They're the most important, like my favorite team in comics, the most important team in comics to me. And I've been doing this whole X-Men Readathon where I'm reading from issue 1 and I'm going onward. And I've finished up the material that's in this first omnibus. And it really just, you know, coming from issue 1, it just reminded me how amazing Claremont's work is. Chris Claremont's run on the X-Men is one of the, if not the best runs of Marvel Comics of all time. It is one of them, and for me it is one of the best ones. Claremont does really well to introduce all these new characters, completely reinvigorate the X-Men franchise. When Claremont came onto the X-Men, he did a really amazing job of completely just reinventing them and reinvigorating the book from what it was back when, you know, Stan Lee and Roy Thomas were writing it. You know, back then it was more just cut and dry kind of superhero monster of the week type stuff. There was a couple of, you know, several issue arcs, but when Claremont came on, he turned it into this big sprawling epic story. It was like a continuous you know, superhero drama. You got these characters that he helped to introduce, a lot of characters that he helped to create, not just going out and doing this superhero stuff, but they're living their lives, and you really get this sense that they are not just a superhero team, but they are a family. And that's part, I think, of what makes Claremont's run so strong, is because he's not just writing another superhero book. There's plenty of superhero books, and there were plenty of superhero books on the shelves at the time, but what Claremont was doing when he was writing this book, you know, in the mid-70s and the 80s, throughout his entire run, was just slowly weaving this epic story that was going to be spanning across his entire 17-year run, and then some. He didn't, you know, he had more books that came on after that that would continue his story. You know, he's showing us that the X-Men are not just any other super team. They're not like the Avengers. You know, they live with each other. They grow up with each other. They treat each other like they're a family. And there are scenes in the book where you see, you know, the members talking to each other, Storm just going up to Nightcrawler and saying, you know, I love you, you're my brother. You know, they treat each other like family, and that's really what makes the X-Men special. And it's, you know, they really have to bond like that because they're in a world that, you know, they're saving constantly, but the people who they're saving just always hate them because they're so different. And of course, this has always been a metaphor for civil rights, you know, being different and, you know, standing out and having people constantly hating on you. And I think that while that was shown during the earlier runs, you know, Lee and Thomas's runs, Claremont was the one that really succeeded in making that whole idea stick. You know, I cannot talk enough about how he brought the team together in a way that they hadn't been brought together before. And what's really amazing about it is when you're reading it from his first issue and just going forward from there, you get a sense of those characters growing together in an organic way, like you would with, you know, your friends. You start out your school year, you know, you meet new people, and slowly you're getting closer and closer to them. Just for an example, you're getting closer to them. By the end of that year, everyone in your class is a family, and, you know, some of them don't like each other as much as others, but you're a group that, you know, is tight knit, and, you know, you have your group of friends that you grow up with, and that's what I really get. That's the sense I get out of the X-Men. Another thing that Claremont really does amazingly well is that he sets little seeds into motion that just expand and evolve into huge storylines later on. You know, he'll drop little clues about stuff that's going to happen later on. He'll introduce characters that may not make a wave at first, but they just, you know, the ripple effect, and then eventually there's an issue where boom, like something huge happens, and that's just something that he constantly does throughout his run. And just in this book alone, there's so many huge things that happen. Aside from the team being brought together, you know, the all new, all different X-Men, he introduces us to the Shi'ar Empire. He introduces us to the Phoenix Force, the Hellfire Club. We see the X-Men go back to the Savage Land. We see this whole huge epic storyline where, you know, we see the X-Men split into two teams, half of them thinking that the other half is dead, and then eventually joining back together. And it's just this huge, I could go on for just hours and hours talking about how well it's done. You know, I don't have that kind of time, and I can just sit here and just tell you, you know, trust me, it's some of the most just concise, well planned out writing that's ever happened in comics. And, you know, Claremont did this back in the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s, and it still stands to this day as one of the best runs in all of comics. And that's just the writing. And the artwork just takes it beyond. Dave Cockrum starts out the artwork on this book, and eventually it gets to John Byrne. And I love Cockrum's artwork, but for me, it's John Byrne which shines. And I think that's going to be the case for most people. A lot of people, when they talk about the X-Men, they'll tell you that it's Jim Lee. People from my generation, that is. They'll tell you it's Jim Lee's designs, his versions of the characters, which are their characters. But for me, it's John Byrne. The way that he drew the characters, he defined the X-Men for me. His versions of the characters, those are the X-Men. The way he draws Wolverine, Colossus, and Storm. And I think the reason being is not just because of the way that he draws these characters as superheroes in their costumes, but the way that he draws them as people outside of their costume. We see, you know, Wolverine out there, he wears, you know, these plaid shirts and his leather jacket with the fur, and he has his, you know, wide-brimmed hat and his boots and jeans and stuff, and it just, he helps to define who that character is. His look really adds to his personality. Aurora, Storm, she's always wearing such elegant looking clothes. She always looks like a queen every time she's wearing anything outside of her costume. We see, you know, all the other ones, Colossus, Banshee, they're always wearing clothes that just define who they are. Banshee always has that, you know, cabbie hat. He's got his, you know, jacket on. Colossus is always wearing, you know, tighter fitting shirts to show off how muscular he is. And then you have Kurt, Nightcrawler, is always wearing, you know, an overcoat, a trench coat, and a hat to kind of hide his blue skin, hide the fact that he's noticeably a mutant. So just Byrne really helps to define what these characters are, and define them not just, like I said, as heroes, but as people. And I think that's really how he stands out as the artist, and that's really what makes him my favorite artist on the X-Men, I think, of all time. And not just in the way that he draws the characters, but he draws amazingly detailed backgrounds. And I think that, you know, his ability just all around as an artist is what has solidified him and his place as one of the greatest comic artists in the history of comics. So here's, I think, a pretty good example of John Byrne's artwork. Just phenomenal looking artwork. The face of Xavier in the background with a bunch of scenes in the foreground. And here's some busy pages right here, some more examples of just Byrne's artwork looking great and him drawing the characters outside of their costumes. Just, you can see that he brings such energy to the book, and I think that, you know, it's really his work that makes it flow as well as it does. It's not just Claremont, and it's not just his artist. There's really just this supreme harmony that happens between Chris Claremont and the artists that he's working with. And in here, of course, I'm talking about John Byrne. You can tell that there was just this excellent harmony between the two, between artist and writer, to the point that, you know, eventually you see Byrne not only being credited as the artist, but as the co-plotter, because he was integral in the development of these stories and stuff. Which stories, I guess I should say, are collected in here? The major stories. This book has, of course, the intro of the new X-Men, and then we also see there's the Savage Land arc with the all-new X-Men heading to the Savage Land for a little while. And we also, one of the major storylines that's in here is the Proteus story arc, which is a really big one that leads directly into the Dark Phoenix saga. And if you're looking at this and you're looking at the page count, it does have the first few issues that are usually collected in the Dark Phoenix Saga book, instead of putting like those issues in the second volume, having the entire Dark Phoenix Saga in one place. But when you're reading it, you know, from the beginning and just reading all the way through, you start to begin to see that there's really not any division of story arcs in here. The way that Claremont writes the book, it is just an organically weaving ongoing drama of these heroes and, you know, what they're doing, the events that are passing, the villains they're fighting, the you know, the lives that they're leading. It's really an ongoing story, and there's not a division for each arc. You can say, like, you know, the Proteus arc lasted this many issues, and then it led into Dark Phoenix, but Dark Phoenix can also be divided into different parts, and every issue just has, you know, a beginning, middle, and end, and you can read anything on its own, but it works better integrated as a part of the whole. And it's just the way that Claremont wrote, and it's really a testament to how great of a writer he is, because he maintains this ongoing storyline where you really, you don't have to, but you really should be reading every single issue you know, from the beginning to the end of his run. And that's why, you know, I'm really happy that Marvel has done such a good job to publish so much of this, like, nearly 200 issue run across oversized hardcovers. Right now we're still lacking, you know, a third and fourth omnibus, and there's a little bit of material between a couple of the event collections, but otherwise Marvel's done an amazing job of just collecting pretty much the entire run, and it really helps. I know some of them are out of print. I know this one has gone out of print. I know that Inferno is out of print. I think some other ones, Mutant Massacre, are out of print right now, but it really helps to have all these books, all these oversized hardcovers out there, because it you know, it helps the reader to go forward with this, like, dynamic story. It really helps to allow you to sit there and take it all in. I just, you know, I can't say enough good about the run. I mentioned before I could sit here for hours and just keep talking about it, but honestly, this is one of the storylines that means the most to me in all of comics, and it's one that I will always recommend. I know that I've had some people tell me that sometimes writing from about this era is a little bit, you know, it's different than the way that stuff is written now. There's definitely, you know, there's more exposition, there's more explaining everything. You know, every time a character comes out, almost, it seems like they explain their powers, stuff like that. Every issue has to begin with, like, explaining what happened last time, and every issue has to end with, like, a tease for the next issue, stuff like that. But it's really just, you know, the way that things were written at the time, and it's important to observe this, you know, this style of writing is very indicative of the time that it was written. But if you're reading it in one solid go, you know, if you sit there and you're reading a few issues at a time, or, you know, an issue at a time at a regular pace, your mind kind of falls out of being familiar with the modern writing and kind of falls into reading this type of story, the way that this is written, the narrative flow of this becomes more familiar while you're reading it, and you fall into it, and it becomes less, I guess, less difficult for people who are more familiar with modern comics. So if you have tried to read some of this stuff before and you found that it was difficult, I implore you to go back and try again. You know, sit down with the book, read several issues of it, and, you know, once you fall into it, it is amazing. That's my Omnibus of the Week for this week. Uncanny X-Men Volume 1. One of my all-time favorite runs. We're starting off on the Claremont stuff, so if you're watching this as part of my Readathon, I'm going to be doing tons more videos, Readathon stuff, and now that we got to the Claremont stuff, this is what I've been waiting for. I really enjoyed reading the Stan Lee and Roy Thomas runs, but I was really just anticipating the Claremont stuff, and I'm so excited to be there, and I'm so excited to go forward. Thank you so much for watching the video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out the website, www.theomnibuscollector.com. We got a really awesome community of comic lovers over there. We're constantly talking about what's coming out, what we want to see come out, you know, how we think about stories and stuff, all kinds of stuff about comics. There's an amazing community, so please check out the site, join the community. Thank you so much again for watching, and we'll see y'all next time. In case you missed it, check out my last X-Men Readathon video. And also, make sure to check out my other Omnibus of the Week videos, such as last week's Captain America Lives. I can't, it's gonna hurt my butt.